Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar week. This week, we are discussing the topics about how to become a partner, how to become an integrator, how to apply the right methodology to implement your project successfully. And today, we're going to start with how to turn the crisis into opportunity with the current situation of COVID. I'm here with M. Yeah, we are the team leaders of the Business Partnership and Alliances team in Hong Kong. So our role is to help new partners to get trained and to implement their first project successfully. So we help them with that. If you have any questions during the webinar, of course, feel free to drop it down in the chatter, and we of course will do our best to answer them at the end of the webinar.
Yep.
So this is the agenda for today. First, we will talk about what are the business challenges under the COVID, so how to tackle those challenges, how to address them, and why now it's a better time than ever to become Odoo business integrator, and how we can of course help you with that to start your first projects if you have never implemented Odoo before. And then we will also present you with two of the cases that are directly related to current situation. So I'll pass the mic over to M, who will start
with the
challenges.
So yeah, of course, we're facing unprecedented times of crisis during this whole maybe about 4 months or 5 months already. There'll be regulations and quarantine. So hopefully by today, we'll disclose some solutions as to how we can still continue our work despite the challenges that we face today. So let's get into the impacts of COVID-19 to the different businesses around the world. As you can see here with Accenture, I've collected some articles and research regarding what has been happening around the world. And this is what Accenture has said. I've kind of put down in point form. The first thing they said was that the developed digital workforce is a challenge for SMEs currently, because of course, with the current regulations and country quarantine measures to make sure that we all social distance, it's going to affect the businesses and operations. So we've moved from in office or in retail shops to moving into working from home and also working remotely. So these are the challenges that we face today. And it's pretty obvious that with these regulations, it's for our safety and for our health benefits. So let's try to abide by those rules as well. Making good use of the right tools. So this one specifically talks about how even though maybe we're working from home, we need the right tools for communication. We need the right tools for being able to run effectively our operations, our sales, our HR, for example. So having the right tools in place in your operations is very important. So that's been impacted by businesses here. As you can see, flexibility and adaptability is something that businesses have been challenged with as well. If they're traditional run business with manual work, manual paper, then of course they will be struggling a little bit with in terms of being able to work from home, for example, or working remotely. So they had to be flexible and adaptable according to what the market is giving to be able to maintain a high project management efficiency. One of the other key factors about the impacts of the COVID-19 on businesses is that it's forced businesses to check their resources, and sometimes, of course, the lack of resources because of no customers has affected them greatly in terms of operating, maybe for even the short term down the line, 6 months to 1 year. So this is definitely something that's affecting businesses all over the world. With the work from home procedure, as you can see here in the last point, we're unable to meet clients and train them as well if they're, for example, implementing a system themselves. System integrators specifically won't be able to go to the client's office and train them on how to use the system. So this is what Accenture has said. So if you want the source, by the way, it'll be linked in the description. And we can also give it to you by email when you contact us through our own emails. So this one here discusses what Odoo has been seeing around the APAC market. As you can see here, contracts and supply chains delayed or have been delayed and postponed. All right, so employees are also unable to work remotely. So these are the challenges on what we have been seeing for our Odoo customers as well. The key thing here is that ineffective and external communication as well has been affected, especially this one relates to if you don't have the right tools, as Accenture mentioned. If you don't have the proper communication tools to work with your teams while they are work from home or working remotely, then of course your operations will be affected. One of the other key things that happened during this COVID-19 is that businesses have not been able to respond fast enough, adapt fast enough, to these uncertain situations. So you can see that, for example, for traditional operations, everything is done manually. So if you had to be at the factories, then of course during this time you will be heavily affected. One of the key things here is documents were not transferable, especially if they were manually done. Unlike with Odoo, if you have the Documents app, of course you can do it remotely and then be able to still work and transfer and share documents on the system. So these are the issues and challenges that we have found with companies of late. So talking specifically about being a partner, and being an integrator, of course in this market, the technology sector has been affected. So this is a statistics from Statista. As you can see here, there's a graph. So let me explain to you what these three graphs mean. Basically in February 3, they predicted that if everything was normal without the crisis, the technology sector would have grown at 3%. However, of course, with the COVID-19, it has greatly affected the market. So they said that this is the most probable scenario for the current market. So you can actually see here that there's still some growth, even though there's a COVID-19. Where can we see this growth? It could be through the fact that SMEs now need to work remotely, right? So they need a system. So this is an opportunity for you to implement for them. And so this is probably where you can see the growth. That's just an example. So the pessimistic scenario, the worst case scenario, in Statista, they said that the whole technology sector will actually decrease. So they said that it won't grow. They'll a negative 2% growth, basically. But I think the most probable scenario is quite accurate, as we can see from the current market and current situation all around APAC. So yeah, let's go into the challenges for integrators themselves or partners themselves. One is that clients are afraid of changing. So this could be the fact that their business has been greatly affected, and we can see that for sure. However, during this downtime, I would say that actually this is the perfect time for them to plan for the long term, right? Because they want to make sure that this does not happen again. They want to make sure that in the future they do have a digital workforce able of being flexible and capable of operating no matter what challenges lay ahead. Managing clients' expectations during this tough time. So challenges for integrators in this regard means that maybe some customers come to you now and they're like, oh, I need to implement straight away and really fast right now, because otherwise my operations will basically stop. Of course, this is something that you should be managing, because you don't want to implement something and then it breaks in the future. So ensuring that it is implemented properly is also important. So managing their expectation in that regard is vital. All right, so the risk of implementation failure is higher actually at this time. One, just because if you don't manage your expectations, like I mentioned previously, and also if you don't tell them about the necessity for the current, if they need they need digital operations up and running, then of course the implementation will be affected by that, right? So one, here as I mentioned, that not enough resources. Let's say, for example, they've been affected by not having enough business coming in. So this one definitely is a big big factor as to whether an implementation will go ahead or not. So you have to talk to the customer and ensure that this is something that they can go ahead with or not. Time constraints. This one I mentioned earlier as well. You have to make sure that the time constraints mentioned for the project is realistic, all right, and it's measurable and it's achievable, because otherwise this will definitely increase the risk of failure. Customizing the system to fit local regulations. This is actually a kind of like a normal challenge for integrators now, but then because of the speed of which you are, I guess, if you don't manage the customer's expectations properly, they may want the local regulations and compliance done immediately. So managing this expectation is very important, making sure that actually you can do it in phases instead of everything in one go, despite the importance. Again, quality over the speed, integration issues. So making sure that integration and APIs and connectors work is very important to making sure that we deal with the challenges. So this is something that integrators will have to take care of, at least, right? All right, so as you can see here, actually, if we're looking at the overall of ERP and business systems in the market, ERP has somewhat become more of a necessity nowadays, especially to SMEs, because then if they don't have it, like I mentioned earlier, they won't be able to operate or effectively or efficiently. Price has to be flexible for projects, so ensuring that we are being understanding and making sure that, yes, they have been affected, these SMEs have been affected, so we should try to maybe, just a suggestion maybe, sort out the payments that they have to pay to you as an implementer in installments instead, not in one go. So this is just one way that you can tackle this issue. Implementation quality and speed, I mentioned this in the previous slide. Ensuring that the quality and the success rate for the implementation is above the speed, even though speed is important as well. All right. One of the ways you can ensure quality and implementation success is keeping the standardized solution, especially with Odoo. So less customizations and less developments. Here you'll see localization, regulation, and standards for different countries. This has become very important, not just because of COVID-19, but because of the laws and regulations in each different country and region. Ensuring that the system that is being implemented is flexible and adaptable in the global market. So this is very important as well for the future of ERP and business systems. So hopefully we've learned a few things from there. Again, if you want some of the sources that I've found, the link will be in the description, and also we can send it to you personally as well. So feel free to let us know. All right, so I'll pass it on over to Petra, and she can discuss how it is to be your position as an integrator.
Thank you, Em, for establishing this context of the circumstances. So yeah, coronavirus has definitely taken its toll in the business world worldwide. So let's face it, the businesses have been slow and will slow down in the next 6 months. And now actually could be the perfect time that you become Odoo integrator and to actually address the tasks that maybe you have been putting off before due to lack of time or maybe due to lack of the resources. So now is the right time to start offering this kind of services and become an Odoo partner. So unless your SMEs, so unless your customers will have a IT team and the resources, probably SMEs will need a partner to work with in order to implement the project successfully. Implementation phase can be quite complex, it can be complicated, so that's why it's important that our partners have the right knowledge and the right resources to do it so successfully. As an integrator, you really need to take the lead and analyze the requirements of the operational processes of the client. But not just that, you actually need to be able to improve them. So that means that sometimes you need to challenge your customer and find the workarounds. So different departments, they need to cooperate between themselves. They need to communicate amongst each other So make sure that the ERP that you choose for your customer is able to do that. And Odoo is actually a very good example of that. So we have one platform, a lot of different applications which communicate beautifully with each other. And they deliver, of course, the most automated and powerful solution. Em already mentioned before that nowadays the supply chain, for example, can be highly disrupted because the companies, the warehouses, the factories, they work with a smaller workforce just to abide by the rules of the safety to prevent the transmission of the disease. And it is absolutely vital that the managers of the warehouses or the production have the centralized data and keep the business operations intact. With Odoo, the data is centralized from the warehouse, inventory, the work orders, the supplier purchase orders, the customer invoices, accounting. You have very accessible data at any moment, and they all make sense when you put it together. Moreover, you need to, as a part of the being a project manager and the implementer, also includes knowing and understanding the local legal requirements and regulations. For example, a good example is the accounting, right? You need to know what kind of regulations there are in that particular moment, and the payroll, and this might change very frequently. So be sure that you are updated and you need to be constantly informed. So to deliver the project effectively, you can follow our implementation methodology. The guide is available on our website for anyone to download it. So if you don't have any internal implementation methodology yet, you can start there. And you can also work with our consultants if you have a partner success pack. Make sure to offer flexible, manageable, and scalable solution. What does that mean? You can work in different phases. So you can start with implementing less complex modules, for example, CRM, invoicing, sales, inventory, and then in the second stage you add the manufacturing, the purchases. Maybe in the last stage you can then scale it up to accounting. Odoo solution is fully scalable, so you can start with a couple of users and add them as the company grows. Okay, so what are some key to success? So how to make sure that you will maybe get more projects, more customers, and of course also do the implementation successfully. The tip number one is find your area of expertise. So if you are good in what you do in one niche market, I'm sure that the customer would prefer to go to you than to a competitor that might not have the same know-how. That means that you can be maybe specialized in manufacturing projects or maybe accounting. It's up to you. So the second tip would be build your success case portfolio. You can definitely work with our marketing team in case you are already a official partner. You can get in touch with our marketing team that will help you to promote success cases on our website, or you can maybe organize a webinar together, or we also do the road shows. We go to different countries where the partner promotes their services. This will really boost your visibility and get the chances of getting additional projects. The third and the fourth one are actually hand in hand. So reject undoable project. If you know that you don't have enough resources or just the right knowledge to do that, then pass the lead to another partner in the country, or let us, Odoo, help you. That's better to avoid the failure of the project. If you know from the beginning you might not be able to deliver it successfully. You also need to know how to manage the customer's expectations since the beginning. So remember that there's a difference between the objectives of the stakeholders and the key users' needs. So most decision makers, they will tell you that their priority is time and budget, while the users will think in terms of the features. And those sometimes need to be developed. And all these objectives sometimes can be very contradicting. So you should always think of what is good for the whole success of the project, even if it means that you need to challenge the user's request to the point of refusing to do it, if it's not worth it, of course. And you cannot do everything that the customer asks for. So you should think in the long-term mindset. It's better to focus on the project success. So sometimes you will need to ask yourself, is it really necessary to develop? Is it worth also supporting the cost? Because later on you'll need to maintain the custom code. And is it just the whole gain of the whole project, is it worthwhile? Maybe sometimes you can take a different approach, avoid the developments and do the workarounds to achieve maybe the same objective even. You need to be sensitive to the changes in the market. I already mentioned the loss of the accounting, of the payroll. Also, ERP market evolves a lot. And of course, the prime example would be the COVID nowadays. The partners, so the integrators and the end users, they had to act very fast and adapt to the market. And also the last point, super important and very relevant to the current situation, make good use of the subsidy program and bank schemes. In Hong Kong, for example, we have the TVP and the DBIS, right?
Yes,
There was a really good webinar done by our colleague Curtis on Friday, so take a look at that. Odoo was also listed as an official service provider under DBIS. So that means that you can actually get some funds back from the government that supports the initiative to modernize your internal ERP system. So take a look at your government schemes, if maybe they are providing something, and also from the bank. All right, so the implementation services. So as a partner, your role is to provide the services, right? So you need to make sure that the project will be implemented successfully. And this starts already since the beginning from analyzing the requirements. First, you need to do systemic gap analysis, observe how the company currently works. Maybe they are already using the system, maybe they haven't been using anything so far and they are completely new to this. Do some interviews with the employees, see how the business flows go, identify the key pain points, and then find a solution to each of the problems. You need to challenge the customer sometimes, as I just mentioned, and present what is necessary, so absolutely must have, and what is optional, just good to have features, and then make the proof of concept for your customer. The second stage would be the installation. So here you need to also consider what would be the hosting option. At Odoo, we actually offer different hosting options. So you need to decide with your customer whether they want to have it on premise, so on their own cloud, or maybe they want to have it on our cloud, either on Odoo SH or SaaS. The configuration, so you need to configure the system according to the right workflows for each module separately. The data migration, or also the data import, so it depends whether they were using already the system before. You're going to migrate data from the previous system or import them from the scratch. I would say this phase really shouldn't be underestimated because it might take a while, depending of course on the volume, on the complexity of the data. And then we have the development and customizations. So again, depends on the complexity of the project. You might need to develop certain feature or customize it. You can also use, so first of all, Odoo is open source. So we share the source code with the partner. You can customize it by coding, or you can customize the solution with Odoo Studio module, which is a very powerful customization tool and requires zero coding knowledge. So it's pretty cool. You can try it out with a free trial on SaaS. The next would be deployment. So going live here. In this phase, you're going to test the business flows, see if everything works correctly. Then we have the maintenance. So this includes the maintenance of the custom code, the maintenance of the server, supporting the client. Here, the support and training. So make sure that you're going to invest your time in training the single point of contact and the project leader. You need to train them on the key business flow because they won't be able to perform their duties unless they become experts in the product themselves. That's it. But of course, you need to make sure that you are able to provide the services, and in case you're not, let us help you with the partner success pack.
Yeah, great.
We follow the QuickStart methodology here at Odoo, and this is one of the rules that we advise to our partners to apply. It's a very simple Pareto principle. So it means that 80% of the outcome comes from the 20% of the causes. So you have to prioritize those 20% to produce, of course, the best results. It means that 80% of the implementation value is related to 20% of the things that you do during the implementation process. I would like to underline a few points here. So, as mentioned before, the priority of the project should be its success. So you need to make sure you know what is the must do, or what maybe you can drop. You don't need to develop everything that the customer asks you for. Complete doesn't always mean complex, which means that maybe you can cover requirements with the standard modules, just avoid the developments. Keep it as simple as possible. It will keep your cost down. It will make your time of implementation go down. And the data migration. So don't import the data for the last 5 years. You don't need the balance sheets for the past 5 years, unless, of course, it's necessary for maybe legal reasons. But even then, you don't need to do it all in the beginning. Maybe do it after 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So, that would be for the 80-20 rule. And now we're going to share with you some real-life cases that are really very related to the current situation of COVID. So the first one I would like to present was done by our official Ready partner in Singapore. So they're actually working on a very nice project with a focus on MRP and PLM, with an estimated number of 50 users, and the hosting type is on-premise. So they will take care of their own cloud, of their own server. They had to do some developments and integrations with some other systems. So they need to develop some connectors. The most important thing was here to make sure we are acting fast, and we wanted to first to train their team with our consultants on site. So they wanted to have very intensive on-site training, but then the COVID came and it changed our plans completely. So we had to adapt. How did we do it? So what is the recipe for the success? First of all, the online trainings. We needed to prepare the functional and technical trainings online, which would otherwise be on site. It is difficult to sit in front of the computer for 8 hours straight every single day, so we adapted the flow a little bit. So we did it in the shorter daily time over longer periods. So instead of 2 weeks, for example, it took a bit more weeks. We needed to make sure we have a very good SPOC, so somebody with good project knowledge. And we set the deadlines, and we had the weekly meetings. That's very important because we needed to make sure the progress is still ongoing. Usually when people work from home, it's a little bit difficult to follow up with each other. So good SPOC, deadlines, and weekly meetings were very, very important. We needed to clarify the pain points since the beginning. So what are the weaknesses, where they would need our help, and we didn't underestimate the change management of the customer as well. So indeed, this partner is working with our consultants from Odoo to deliver the project successfully. So even due to COVID, we were able to do it so.
Yeah, that's a really good case to look at. Actually, it's quite similar in terms of this next case. This next case actually is the end user. So Odoo implemented this for this customer. They're called Civil Protection, and they're actually from Italy. This case actually was done by Odoo online hosting type, and they targeted specifically this company, organization targeted the emergency services in Italy, where they had a challenge of they received a lot of masks, and then of course they wanted to distribute it to all the different health clinics or hospitals, and of course those that required it. So this was one of their challenges, and the key challenge actually. They wanted to do this with speed because, of course, they were actually doing everything manually. So like as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenge was for traditional operations, you could not respond quickly without a system that could help you with distribution, with calculating how much stock you actually have, how much inventory you have, so these things were very important especially for civil protection in Italy. One of the challenges was they didn't know what they could look at. They Google searched. So yeah, these are the challenges they faced during this COVID-19. So how did we respond, and what was the actual keys to success? For this one, the first thing we did was, once we received the initial inquiry, which again, they actually went to Google and they looked for inventory management systems, because of course they wanted to distribute and stock take all the masks that they were receiving and wanted to distribute them as well. So what happened was, we got their contact, we got Spock, as Petra mentioned with the previous case. Spock is very important, having a single point of contact from the customer, so that we can collect everything, all the information, do the analysis, do the requirements, all in one go and properly, so that it can run more smoothly in terms of actually implementing, seeing whether Odoo will actually help them. So the two apps here was Inventory and Studio. And as I mentioned, it's going to be helping with stock taking, distribution, updating, what's how much they have, or what's going to actually go, forecast for the future, sorting out with tags using Studio as well, with fields using Studio as well, to be able to make sure that, let's say example, this mask here is going out to this company, so they put a tag for this box, that's that sort of thing. So that's the first key to success. We did this, we got the inquiry on Friday, and then we implemented it straight away on Monday. So within 48 hours, we were able to collect the information, see and confirm whether the business requirement fit what Odoo could do, and it did. So we implemented it. And one of the other things that we did was, of course, because of the quarantine measures, the social distance measures, we had to train them. And how could we do that during this time, right? Well, because Odoo is able to be done online, we could train them as well remotely, whether they're from home or not. And that's why that's one of the keys to success. We're able to do everything remotely, actually. So yeah, the speed of which we did it, 48 hours, and the flexibility of being able to train the employees to be able to use the system online, definitely helped in creating the keys to success. So yes, this was actually a pro bono case that Odoo did for free for civil protection. So actually, one of the things that they said after it was done was, we were very happy with the speed of reaction, helpfulness, and care that was demonstrated. So this is really something that Odoo, during this crisis, we wanted to help in the situation, and this is something that we're very happy with, that we could help immediately and very quickly, and of course implement a better system for them to distribute the much needed masks, right? So they were doing everything manually before, but now everything is automated. So that's really an amazing story. Again, the full blog article is in the description below. So if you want to read the whole thing instead of the summary, then feel free to click on the description for that. But yeah, I think with the challenge that we're facing, just to summarize everything, we've kind of talked about how, as an implementer, because of course this is a partner week, as an implementer, how you can look at the situation as an opportunity to help out, and also be able to implement for your customers in their struggle with this COVID-19 crisis. You can see the cases from a partner and also from the end user point of view as well. And you can see here that actually during this time, we can all come together and work as a team to try to tackle the big issue, right? So yeah, we can conclude this one and go straight to Q&A. We're going to look at the questions
Do
that
we have
were...
any questions?
Yeah, we do actually, which is great.
Nice.
So let's select a few. All right, which one should we select? Okay, do this one. All right, so Raise360 asked, how will Odoo support its official partner to overcome market recession during COVID-19 pandemic? So I think the first part and Petra can chime into this one as well. What we've done, Odoo, is kind of like a case by case. So we don't standardize sort of the whole, support, but then we do have, actually, even without, the whole crisis of COVID-19, we have a lot of support in terms of success pack. We have documentation, we have webinars, we have YouTube. But other than that, we also do case by case, especially during the peak times for the COVID-19. So if you are looking for some kind of like assistance in that regard, feel free to get in touch, and of course we'll try to do our best. But we'll definitely sort it out case by case.
When you are a partner, you will always have a point of contact here at Odoo, your account manager, who will help you to, when you have a new lead, analyze the requirements of the customer and see how we can implement the project as successfully as possible and as fast as possible. So you will always have the support at Odoo when you're a partner. Besides having all the training resources, so you have access to the online training functional, you have access to the partner knowledge base where we teach you what is the right methodology you should apply. So yeah, the training resources, the source code, the account manager, and if you need even more in-depth detailed support, we have partner success packs.
And actually, kind of related to that topic, tomorrow's webinar will be based on the tools that you get as a partner. So actually, this webinar will be really good to watch because you can definitely learn from what you can get from Odoo so that you can have a more successful time with partnering with us.
So these are the topics for this week. Tomorrow we'll talk about what kind of tools you will get as a partner. Then what is the best implementation methodology for the partners. On Thursday it's going to be in the Mandarin version of the implementation methodology. And on Friday we will conclude the partner week talking about how you can become a successful partner in 1 year. So make sure you are tuned in.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can look at, which one do you want to select? I think this one. Yeah. So Martilness, sorry about that. Because is rely on government policy, you cannot compare apple to apple with Hong Kong government in terms of bank scheme or something like this. Okay, so I think this relates to kind of what we recommended, when you are looking for maybe subsidies or looking for things to help kind of boost your operations, and it's government funded or backed, right? This one is just something that you can consider. It's not something that, of course, we're not forcing down on customers or on system integrators. Yes, definitely look at it case by case because it's, like you said, it's not, apple to apple, right? So I would say this is just an incentive for people to modernize because, of course, as I mentioned, one of the challenges of today was that a lot of operations are still run traditionally, manually with paper. And as we can see from this COVID-19 crisis, that actually you cannot continue operations if we're forced to work from home or remotely. So yeah, it's just something to consider. But yeah,
there's many countries that actually are doing this incentive just to help the SMEs to survive during this pandemic and to modernize. Yeah. So it was just an example in how in Hong Kong the government proposed this.
Right. I think that's pretty much. So there are a few questions, but I believe with this slide we have kind of answered that question.
Yes.
What's next for the coming week? Again, supportive tools will be, especially if you're looking to be an integrator. So stay tuned for that one tomorrow. I think you'll like that one a lot.
If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email, either to me or Emmanuel.
Yep.
We will be very happy to get back to you with an answer. And if you want to become a partner, also contact us and we will explain you what the procedure is and how you can join us.
Yeah, great. Thank you everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you this whole week.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.